So we have done all these things. Like if today we will start from leadership theory, and first of all we will know about trait theory. Now, what is trait theory? Very simple one. Just two types of thoughts are there. One is uh, that it was believed that there was something unique about an individual that enabled him to emerge as a leader. So some uniqueness is there, and it is so we can say that leaders are born; they are not made. So we cannot develop leaders, just they have this inborn quality. And so what the early researchers are telling, they had the belief that some uniqueness is there in sorry dear, I got disconnected. So first of all, let's discuss about the second thought of trait theory. In this theory, what we are finding it out, like develop. Yes, yes. Okay, okay. Okay. Now it's all visible, no? Okay. So, so that means it is just the opposite concept, opposite idea that we can develop leadership skill with the help of training and experience. Research has not thrown up any definite answer to whether there are universal traits to be found in all leaders. Like these are the things that will be there within a means in the characteristic of a leader. The only trait that all leaders seem to possess was above average intelligence. So that is the common trait. That is the common trait that we are finding it out in each and every leader, that is above average intelligence. Identifying the physical traits associated with leadership has been given up as quite an irrational exercise. So no links have been found between the physical trait such as height, strength. So this is not having any relationship with leadership. Whether a person is tall or short or that is not significant, that is not important. The important thing is intelligence level of intelligence. Today researchers look more for the combination of characteristics that leaders as seem to possess. Like there are some researchers like emotional intelligence of leaders suggest that empathy, graciousness. So these are the some of the characteristics that today's researchers they are suggesting that these things should be there within a leader. Now we will talk about the behavioral theories. Under the behavioral theories, we'll learn about the Ohio State study. So, in this particular study, what we find that it has been conducted in Ohio State University, and the questionnaire, some questionnaire was used. That was leader behavior description questionnaire. different people, different leaders of different areas, different people, they have been asked to give the fill this questionnaire, like different people like supervisors on the shop floor, teachers, college administrators. So across various groups, different people were identified, and from different people, uh, what was the idea to do this particular study? The idea was they wanted to identify the different independent dimensions along which an individual's leadership behavior could be studied. So, leadership behavior was the subject of study, and they identified two dimension, and these two dimension consolidate means these two dimensions means a lot of thousand dimensions actually they identified, and among those thousand dimensions they actually consolidated into two dimensions. What are those two dimensions? One was initiating structure and another was consideration. So, if you talk about initiating structure, that means here we are thinking about the productivity, we are thinking about the target. So, subordinates task, their work, that is the ultimate thing. So the person, the leader who get high score in this particular dimension, that means he is interested to put pressure on his subordinates to get the work done by him at the right time. So, deadline is the important thing over here. The standard of performance, the deadline, that is the ultimate thing in this particular dimension. Now, if you talk about consideration, in this dimension, the leader is taking care of the subordinates. He is respecting his views, ideas, feelings, all these things. Whatever the problems the individual is facing, he will try to sort it, and work related issues, any problem he's facing. So that means he's by the side of the employee. So the person who will be getting high score, the leader who will be getting high score in this dimension, so we can say that that person is very much thinking about his employees or the subordinates. Now, the person who is scoring high in both the dimension, like initiating structure and consideration. So, if someone is getting high score in both the dimension, we can say that that is a good thing about a leader because he is thinking about the performance as well as the employee. So that is good. If someone is getting high score in only initiating structure, that means only he is thinking about the target. He is not at all thinking about the employee. And the opposite of it, if someone is thinking about only the employee, he is not concentrating on the performance of the employee. That is also that is also not good. So ultimately, we will get some poor performance from the employee. So what is expected? What is the good leadership? The leader who will get high score in both the dimension. Then comes the University of Michigan study. This study is also very much similar to the previous one that we have already discussed, that is the OU study. The finding of this particular study is here also they identified two things. One is employee oriented, another is production oriented. Two dimensions were identified, and in the employee oriented, the person, the leader who will get high score, that means he will think about the personal interest of the subordinate. Means he will think about the employee, he will take a personal interest in the welfare of the subordinate, their needs, their problems, their issues, and they will accept the individual differences among members. And if you find that that the leader is getting good score in this particular dimension, you will find that automatically their productivity, the productivity of the group, the employee is increasing. And leaders who score high on the production oriented dimension, that means he's always thinking about the task, goal, or the target. So he's considering his employee as a machine. So it was found that such a leadership style resulted in a lower motivational level of employees because they are not getting any support from the mental support from the leader. He is getting only the target, only the goal from the leader. So employee oriented researchers therefore concluded that employee oriented leaders achieve higher job satisfaction and higher group productivity, whereas in case of production oriented, they will get low job satisfaction and low productivity. Then we will talk about managerial greed. This is the managerial greed or the leadership greed. In this greed, we have two dimension. One is concern for production, another is concern for people. And we have 9 rows and 9 columns, and that means 81 intersecting points are there. And among those, five intersecting points were identified, and among those we will discuss those fives only. And the first one is impoverished management. Like here, what will happen? Like the leader is getting leaders is having some low concern towards the production as well as the people. So he is not thinking about the people as well as the production. And just the opposite of it, like the leader is thinking about production as well as the people. Country club, the leaders are having low concern for production and high concern for people. And for authority compliance, we have high concern for production and low concern for people. In case of middle of the road, here we have moderate concern for both the people and the production. So, which one is going to be effective leadership? The team management, because here we have high concern for production as well as people. And moderate one, like the middle of the road, that is also quite effective one. One more thing, that is Scandinavian study. In this particular study, one more dimension was identified, some new dimension that was development oriented dimension. So uh, here what we find that a leader should have this particular dimension, means they should get good high score in this development oriented behavior. So if they are getting high score in this particular dimension, that means we can say that they are very much they are very much innovative in nature. They always prefer some new ideas, so they love to do some experiment. So these are the things that they will do if they are getting high score in development oriented behavior. So that was a addition by the Scandinavian study. Now we'll talk about the Fiedler's contingency. We have learned about different positive, participative, and considerate style of leadership. These things, like we can say that considerate. If you are means if you are considerate, that means consideration is there. We have learned about it. Or participative in nature, if you are. So, if that is the style of leadership you are following, so we can say this is very much effective one, and there is evidence that such a style may not be successful in some situation. So that means situation is a factor. Situation is an important factor. We can say that these leadership styles are going to be effective, but situation, on the basis of situation, it will depend. So this implies that there is no one style of leadership that is appropriate in all situations. There is no ideal style of leadership that is applicable in every situation. Not possible. So contingency leadership theories postulate that leaders have to change their style of leadership. So we need to change our style of leadership according to the situation. So how the situation is changing, depending upon that, we have to change our style of leadership. So leaders should analyze the nature of a situation first of all. We have to analyze what is the type of situation, whether it is favorable or unfavorable, that we have to understand. So after that analysis, then only we can decide that which style of leadership is going to be adopted. According to this model, leadership requirements depend on situation facing the leader, and the choice of most appropriate style of leadership depends on whether the overall situation is favorable or unfavorable to the leader. So, as we have understood, that leadership is choosing the leadership style is not so easy. Like, we can say that there are different style of leadership that is effective, that is good one, but we cannot say this is the ideal style of leadership that we can use everywhere in each and every situation. So in different situation we have to choose different style of leadership, and for that we need to analyze the situation. Now after analysis we have to understand whether the overall situation is favorable or unfavorable, and accordingly we have to choose the uh, most appropriate style of leadership. Now the favorability or unfavorability of particular situation, how we can say that the situation is favorable or unfavorable. Leader member relationship, what is the type of relationship that we have? It will indicate the extent to which a leader is accepted by the subordinate. How much acceptance is there in the subordinates? How much they are accepting the leader? Is there any friction? There is any problem if majority of subordinate is not uh, accepting their leader? So that means the leader is getting low score in this particular dimension. Degree of task structure. This refers to the degree to which the task on hand can be performed efficiently. The task that we have in our hand, how much efficiently we can do it or complete it. Then leader's position. What particular position the leader is holding, how much power he is having, how much authority he is having in his hand, like whether he's having some position, he's in a position, in such a position that he will be able to decide the reward, the incentives that his subordinates will be getting. So that is important. So leader's position, what is the leader's position, that is also important. So first of all we have to understand what is the relationship between leader and member, and how much we can efficiently perform a particular job, and what is the position or the power or authority that a leader is having. Depending upon all these things, we can decide whether a leader is in a favorable situation or not. So, a situation is considered to be favorable to the leader if he scores high on all the three dimensions. So, Fiedler's propose that a task oriented, tough leadership style is most effective in highly favorable or highly unfavorable situations. Like in two extremes, if the situation is highly favorable, that means the leader is getting good high score in both all the dimensions. And if this leader is getting low score in all the dimensions. So, what will happen? In both these extremes, the fiddler is proposing that we need task oriented, tough leadership style, and that will be effective in both this particular situation. And a people oriented, more lenient style of leadership is appropriate in moderately favorable or moderately unfavorable situation. So, if it is in a moderate situation like favorable or unfavorable, so there we have to go for the more lenient style of leadership. That will be effective, people oriented, lenient type of. So he has suggested that managers must examine the situation in which they operate in terms of people, task, and organization and adapt their style of leadership to suit the situation. If this is not possible, they must attempt to change the elements of the job to suit their style. Now we will talk about the Blanchard situational theory. This is also called life cycle model. Now, what is this Blanchard model? So, the maturity level of subordinate plays a major role in influencing the leadership style of superior. So, uh, not only the leader is important, also the subordinate is important. Now, we have to understand what is the maturity level of the subordinate, and that is having some important role in influencing the leadership style of superior. So, the ability of an employee to carry out a particular task. So, two things are there. One is how much ability I have to do a particular task, or I have ability to do a particular task, how much intention we have to do this particular task. So, one is whether I have the ability, another that means the whether I am competent enough, or we have whether I have the ability, maybe I have the ability, but whether I'm interested to do that work, like whether I am committed to do the work. So, two things are there: the ability of an employee to carry out a particular task and the extent to which he is motivated to perform the task constitute the maturity of an individual. So, how we can define the maturity of an individual? Two parameters are there: whether he is able, and another whether he is interested. So, two things are necessary. If the manager gives appropriate guidance to an employee, the employee is likely to develop the necessary job related abilities in a short time. However, all employees will not have the same level of competence. Obviously, competence and commitment to the assigned task. Yes, different employees will have, like, we have understood that two things we have to consider: that whether a person is having an ability to do the work or whether he is interested to do the work. But then also, this level of interest, this level of ability will differ. All of them will not be having the same competence and commitment. So the leaders have to adopt different style of leadership so that they can deal with different subordinates. According to Hershey Blanchard leadership style, Blanchard leadership style can be categorized into four types: telling, selling, participating, and delegating, which vary in nature and extent of guidance and support offered by the superior to his subordinate. The leadership style selected by an effective manager depends on the development level of the employee. If an employee is low in his ability to perform as well as his willingness to perform. So we have mentioned that maturity means two things: ability and willingness. So ability, if an employee is low in his ability and he is low in his willingness. So low in his ability to perform and willingness to perform. The managers need to adopt the telling style. Like he must constantly give directions to the employee. Now, if an employee is high in ability but low in willingness, very high in ability means he is having the ability, he can do, but he is not willing to do. The manager has to use the selling style of leadership. He has to give direction as well as required support the employee to perform the task. So we have to motivate him so that he will do the work. So if an employee is capable of performing but not willing to perform the task, so if an employee is capable of performing but not willing to perform the task, the manager has to apply participating style of leadership. He has to give less direction uh, and more responsibilities, but extend support to the employee in carrying out his responsibilities. Now, if an employee is capable and is also willing to carry out the task, so it will be easy. Like the manager can simply delegate the task and uh, the responsibilities also, and the employee does not need any detailed instruction and extensive support to accomplish the task. Then comes the path goal theory. The path goal theory is a contingency model of leadership developed by Robert House. Uh, According to this theory, the leader should provide required support and guidance to his followers and help them achieve the organizational goal. So, the theory is telling us that the leader will give some support, they will give some guidance to the followers, and they will help them to achieve the organizational goal. He should also establish individual goals, like individual goals are also important. Some group goals could be important, and after that, organizational goal is coming. So each and every goal is interlinked, but just the area of this goal is different. Like for individual, we have certain individual goals, some objectives we have, some career goals we have, but that is linked with the organizational goal. It should be linked. Otherwise, it is means we are concentrating only on the individual goals. We are not thinking about the organizational goal. This situation will arrive. Thus, the leader defines the path to achieve the goal. This leader will tell you how to achieve the goal. He also removes any obstructions that come in the way. Like, is there any obstruction? So the leader will remove this obstruction. Now, the behavior of the leader is acceptable to subordinates as long as the subordinates find that the satisfaction of their need, like promotion, reward, depends on their effective performance. So, when they will find that uh, that their whatever the performance they are giving, that is linked with their um, promotion, means if they are getting promotion, if they are getting reward, so they will be satisfied, so they will get the satisfaction. How will they get the satisfaction? With the help of performance. So what they are finding it out, if they are giving proper performance, so they are getting proper promotion, so they are satisfied. So the behavior of the leader will be very much acceptable by the subordinates. They are provided with the guidance, support, rewards that are needed for effective performance. Then they will get some guidance, support, and reward. So all these things are important. Now, under the path goal theory, House suggested four types of leadership. Directive leadership. The leaders tell his subordinates clearly what is expected from you, what are the things, and how you will be doing it. So everything will be, all the instructions, work schedule, everything will be done. It is related to the initiating structure. There also we are thinking about, means we are giving all the instruction to the subordinate. So that is directive leadership. Like in case of autocratic style of leadership, there also we have seen it. Then comes the supportive leadership. The leader's attempt to address the need and problem of his subordinate. What are the needs? What are the problems a subordinate is facing? So I'm giving some support. That is there in the consideration. Like I'm by the side of the employee. Participative. So when they're having some problem, any issues the leaders are facing, so they will in, include the subordinates also. They will always encourage the subordinates to give some ideas, some suggestions. So this is participative leadership that we know. Earlier also we have learned what is participative style of leadership. Then is achievement oriented. The leaders attempt to develop his subordinates by giving them some challenging tasks, high responsibilities, and encouraging them to perform at their best. The path goal theory suggests that leaders' behavior depends on two contingency variables: environmental factor, authority system or the nature of task, and the personal characteristics of the subordinate. So that is something that is related to the organization. Environmental factor means that very much related to the organization. And when we are talking about personal characteristics, that is linked with the subordinate. Their experience, their capability, their locus of control. So that is important. Job satisfaction and employees' performance are likely to be influenced positively when the leader compensates for what is lacking in the work environment or in the employee. So, two things are important: one is employee, another is environment or the organization. The theory also proposes the leader's behavior will be ineffective if it is not consistent with the environment and the subordinates' characteristics. So these two things are important. So what the leader's behavior should be, it should be linked, it should be very much consistent with the as well as the subordinates characteristics. For example, directive leadership, if used with highly capable or highly inexperienced subordinates, may prove to be counterproductive and lead to employee dissatisfaction. Like the person is capable enough, so what is the need to give him a lot of direction? If you are giving a lot of direction to some experienced person, to some very capable one, that is not at all effective, and that will create some problem also. So that's all for the day.